Welcome to Emerging Franchise Brands, the podcast that introduces you to the visionary founders of America's fastest growing franchise opportunities. We'll also hear from industry pros as they share insights on what it really takes to achieve the elusive milestone of 100 plus locations. I am your host, Frank Fumi, founder of I9 Sports, and my 20-year journey from inception to acquisition has given me a unique perspective on how to succeed in franchising. Join me as we welcome today's guest. Before I start today's show, I have exciting news for founders, CEOs, and franchise brand presidents. Join me January 14th through the 16th, 2025 in Tampa for the first ever Emerging Franchise Brands live event, an exclusive opportunity designed just for you. It's my blueprint for success at every stage of franchising, one I wish I'd had, packed with real-world solutions and strategies to solve your challenges today and prepare for those you'll face tomorrow. Space is limited, so head over to emergingfranchisebrands.com to secure your spot today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. On today's show, I have the founder of Foxy Box Laser and Wax Bar, Kyla Dufresne. Kyla, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. You giggled already.
I did.
Thanks for having me.
I warned you. Kyla, I'm a 12-year-old boy trapped in a 56-year-old man body, so this is going to be a really difficult episode for me to get through without smiling and laughing at your company name.
Well, we like to have fun, so.
All right, Kyla, well, let's tell the audience all about Foxy Box Laser and Wax Bar. How did you get started?
I got started 12 years ago now. I started Foxy Box. I used to go to a lady out of her house to get my waxing services done. And if I didn't pre-book with her every 3 weeks, it was really hard to get an appointment. She didn't have online booking, things like that. So I'd have to text her or leave a voicemail. She'd call back. So the idea of a wax bar came to fruition. The only other options at that time were a high-end spa where you're going to spend $100 in a dimly lit room with someone who probably doesn't want to be doing the service, or the back of a nail salon for cheaper that probably didn't have the highest hygienic standards. So the idea of creating a wax bar that was fun, affordable, and convenient came to fruition. I was a bartender at the time, so I used my bartending tips. I put myself through school. They showed me one Brazilian in school and went, okay, you're certified, and sent me on my way.
No way.
So as I was learning and practicing to get good at Brazilians, I used to offer my customers a shot of tequila or whiskey before their service to help them relax so that I could get fast and good at Brazilians. I had a dining room of my shared house. It was Foxy Box. I turned that into my little waxing room. Bartending proved to be the best platform for me to start my business because every girl woke up with a Foxy Box card in their pocket. So that was the best way to grow my business. I was starting to get too busy. My roommates were like, "Kai, you can't bring strangers to the house anymore." I was probably having 5 customers come to the house a week, and they're like, "You got to stop bringing customers here." The cool thing about bringing customers to the house, though, was I had to make people feel comfortable. It was, they were like, "Where is this Foxy Box?" They would be kind of confused. I was Foxy Box. I had to provide that energy. So that created the foundation of the brand. Like, you got to make people feel really comfortable doing this service. So from there, I went out, found my own space, a little 10 by 10 room in the back of a jewelry store downtown. And at this time, Frank, there wasn't wax bars. Like, this concept wasn't around in Canada anyway. So people would see the sign, and I started getting walk-ins, and I started getting busy, and I got busy really quickly. So from there, I needed my own space. I went out, found my own space with a waiting room, set my own hours, things like that. And then I started getting busier. I had to hire some staff. I trained the same way I was trained, which was I went to my best friend and went, "Hey, I need a waxer. I'm fully booked. I'm too busy. Do you want to wax?" She went, "Yep." I showed her one Brazilian and went,
Wow.
"Here you go." And luckily for me, I have very talented friends, because that could have been the end of Foxy Box right there. We now have a huge 5-day training program for all of our magicians, we call ourselves. And so we have a training curriculum for that. But that was 12 years ago now. And fast forward to today, we've got 18 locations across Canada, 4 more under construction. And hopefully one day we'll be in the US and worldwide.
Wow. Okay. So for those that are
So
interested,
that's our story.
that's the story. So for those that are interested in opening a Foxy Box in the US, you have an FDD that you're hoping to have by year end here, 2024. So
You
that's
got
the
it.
goal
Yeah.
for next year. Wow.
Our goal is to enter the US by next year. We want to come to market in the US. So we're really excited to come down south.
Sweet. So you started this business in 2012, right? But your first franchise location opened in Canada in 2019. What was there like a defining moment that you had? What was this epiphany that you said to yourself, I need to franchise this?
Frank, my goal from the beginning has always been to franchise. I knew I was going to start a wax bar. We were going to do Brazilians. I was going to call it Foxy Box, and I was going to take over the world one box at a time. That was my motto, and it still is my motto. And so that's always been my vision from before I even opened my first one. Having said that, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I didn't know what the hell that actually meant,
Of course.
opening a franchise. So I mean, I could write a book about my mistakes, but my first franchise or license agreement failed. We separated with them. And that was my biggest learning experience. I call it my Harvard education. That was 2015 or 2016. And then after that went south because I didn't know what I was doing. I put a pause on everything, hired a franchise business coach, systemized everything, and then we went back to market in 2019, but more prepared than ever.
Nice. I hope, if you don't mind me asking, it is common, unfortunately, that as entrepreneurs, we think we're doing the right thing, and we sometimes franchise by accident, where we license, but it really was a franchise. Is that what happened to you back in 2016-ish?
That's exactly right. And it was a license. It wasn't a franchise. But if you behave like a franchise, it is a franchise. But that was the only way to get around in our province, BC, and there was another province at the time where you didn't need to have an FDD or an FA. So you didn't have to put out that money up front to create an FDD.
Okay.
So that's why we went that route to sell our first license agreement instead of a franchise. But I will tell you, I mean, that was to our detriment. FDDs are so important for everyone to understand what they're getting into and what their responsibilities are, what our responsibilities are, laying that foundation of what the relationship will look like.
Totally.
So, we thought, oh, this is cheaper. So that's how we're going to go franchise and get a license agreement. And we don't have to get this FDD in this big document. But I'll tell you, that document is so important to establish the relationship from the beginning.
It is, Kyle. I've always said that to me, the FDD, the beauty of franchising is that everybody's hands are above the table. Everything is being disclosed. There is no question on what the franchise stands for. What are the rules? What is the franchisee getting? What is the franchisor's expectation? And the best franchisors from the very beginning are the ones, those founders or CEOs or presidents, whoever's leading the charge, is really intimately involved with the FDD, because none of us, you, myself, and most other people have no franchise experience, but we do hire franchise attorneys who give us advice on what our FDD or FA should look like. Our attorneys are trying to protect us, but aren't not necessarily giving us all the options. And that's why it's so important for us to truly understand the FDD and what the options are that go into it to deliver the best possible opportunity, and to more than protecting us, but giving us the best way of being able to sell our franchise opportunity to people.
Totally, for sure.
Yeah. So you're going to go ahead, you're going to franchise this. It's like 2018, 2019. And do you bootstrap the company? Do you bring in outside investors? What was your situation like back then?
Bootstrapping it, and still, it's still just me. I own the company fully. Back then, Frank, I was a bartender. So I don't know if you've ever bartended or been in that industry, but So you know that on paper we make about $17,000 a year, but in reality we probably make closer to 70, but it's all cash, right? Back then, banks wouldn't give me a loan. They would look at me, they would laugh at me when I'd go ask for a loan. So I used my bartending tips to fund my business. So, I worked 4 or 5 nights a week and then 5-6 days a week starting my budding business. And after I was getting busy there, when I opened up my first storefront, I got a $50,000 loan. Finally, a bank like, oh, we'll give you 50 grand. So, I used my profits from my first location to fund my second location, and then use that money to fund my franchise ventures from my location. So I've been bootstrapping it. And now we are at a place now where banks are happy to work with us, which is great. But I definitely didn't have a big pocketbook when I started.
Yeah. The banks always want to give us the money when we don't need it.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I don't understand.
I understand. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I
Yeah.
understand why they would do what they do, but it is,
Yeah.
it's kind of, counterintuitive to what we need to grow our business, but I understand.
Totally.
Yeah.
Back then too, Frank, that was like, it was kind of a fun time for me when I didn't have a lot of money or didn't have a big budget because we had to get creative.
Sure.
You know this, like with our marketing and where to find people and get people through the door. I didn't have a big budget. We didn't have an advertising fund. We didn't have extra money. So, to get through customers through the door, it was a lot of boots on the ground, grassroots marketing.
Totally.
One of my favorite stories that I love to share with everyone is The Bachelor Canada was looking for bachelorettes. And so one of my magicians, April Ace, she's a burlesque dancer. She's a vivacious, boisterous, beautiful Italian lady. And I went, they're going to pick you for the show. And if you're on that show, customers are going to want to book in with you. So I paid for her flight to Calgary to go audition.
No way.
They chose her. They put her on the show. And then her opening line was, "My name is April Ace and I'm a magician." And everyone in Victoria wanted to book in with her. My plan worked. So, like getting creative with marketing and how to get people through the door was like, okay, how do we do things on a budget? And I used to send her out to do, flash mobs was a thing back then.
Yeah.
So I sent her and her burlesque dancers out to bars and did flash mobs and handed out Foxy Box swag. And so that was a fun time for me too,
Cool.
I always tell franchisees, like, don't forget about that grassroots, get out in your community, show face, because people will see businesses online, but they want to make a connection. Oh, I know the owner of that, or I met this person from that business. So getting out in the community is what I tell all my franchisees. It's so important.
Yeah, there's something to be said about being scrappy, having to make it work. Sometimes if you have too much money when you're starting out, you could make you give yourself an allowance of making too many mistakes, thinking that you're, invincible. And there's something to be said about having to make it work, not having a plan B, no turning back.
Exactly.
The founders I've talked to on the show again and again, the ones that have really made it work and the ones that are able to deal with the biggest challenges, the ones that bootstrapped it, that basically had no alternative, that they had to make this business work. And you sound like you're one of them.
That's exactly right. There is no other option. And if you don't think about, I never thought about failure as an option. There was not a what if.
Right.
So I think me being kind of naive has been my superpower as well. Like, I haven't thought about what if this doesn't work out. It's like, we just make it happen.
That's it. Yeah. I just talked to a guest on the show that talked about the secret to his success was about being curious. And, not when you think you know it all, that's when you run into trouble. But being very, very curious allows us to keep our mind open to other things and allows us to weigh options we didn't even think were maybe possible, and to always remain that way.
Always. And I say all the time, what I tell to other entrepreneurs, or I love to mentor other people. I have mentors. I love to mentor other people, is be a sponge and find people that are smarter than you and just be a sponge to their knowledge. Any convention or conference that I go to, it's not to sitting at the round tables and stuff is great, but it's networking. I source out people that I know that are going to be helpful and smarter than me, and I make them be my friend. Do that.
Sure.
Find people and get their cell phone number and get their knowledge and be a sponge.
Yeah. Again, we've said an unlimited number of times about how generous our industry is and sharing. And
it's incredible.
I know you're part of a great group of ladies led by Shannon, and you guys are giving to each other and really giving advice to each other that really sets you up for success in an industry where it's so expensive and we don't have more than one shot at succeeding at this. Failure is not an option.
For sure.
Yeah. Kyla, what about where you found your first franchisees? Where'd they come from?
Where did they come from? They were customers, actually. Our first franchisees knew our brand. They were customers. So we did a little bit of Facebook ad marketing, but essentially they had experienced the brand. They loved us.
Mm-hmm.
And so, they were customers of ours. Now moving forward, our franchisees come from everywhere. We've done trade shows. I hear a lot of people say trade shows haven't been successful, but they've really worked well for us. We're the cool kids on the block. There's not too many beauty brands. So people gravitate towards our booth. And because our brand is so bold and in your face, like, what do you do?
Sure.
So someone, Frank, at a trade show came up and said, "Do you sell boxes?" one time, which I thought was hilarious and cute. But we've had 3 of our franchisees have come from trade shows. A lot of them from Facebook ads, TikTok. Some of us have found our brand on TikTok, mm-hmm. Google search. They kind of come from everywhere now.
The thing about industry marketing of getting franchise owners, of course, customers is always number one. Existing customers, especially when you're starting out your brand and nobody knows you, they're willing to take a chance on you. But I think the thing you kind of touched on that's so important for folks getting into franchising, it's that you have to have a real diverse marketing program. And they came from social media. They came from trade shows. Well, trade shows, you can't say trade shows are great or trade shows are dead. It's really how you interact in a trade show. There's people that do really well with because they're very interactive. But if you're going to get a trade show booth at a convention or at one of these franchise trade shows and you just sit there back, in your booth or sitting in your seat and not being outgoing and having a plan on how we can engage with the potential customer, and then maybe giving out your card and saying, hey, I'm going to have a private event where we're going to talk more about the opportunity, because you have to be different. Those are the people that succeed in, for example, for trade shows. You can't just say, I'm going to have a booth and it's going to work, or say it doesn't work. It's like, what did you do to make it work?
It blows my mind to walk around and seeing people just like that, sitting on their phone in their booth. I'm like, you spent thousands of dollars on this booth. You should be up talking to people. We have candy. I suggest that to everyone. Lure them in with candy.
Candy works.
and we give swag bags out, like we give presents out. So we make people, like I said, how I do it at conventions or conferences. I make people talk to me. We do the same at trade shows, and we make people talk to us. Come here, come to us.
Your sector, health and beauty, it is scorching hot, right? I mean, there are so many, there's new brands, but there's a tremendous amount of opportunity because people are willing to pay more for health and beauty, and we want to stay fit and we want longevity more now than ever, because there's more keys to be able to live longer and be healthier. So I think that's something that, regardless of how busy or how saturated your business is getting, you're in a great space right now, and it should not deter somebody from getting into health, beauty, or fitness.
For sure. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I say all the time, we are a hair removal business, but we're really in the business of empowering people to celebrate their uniqueness and rock what they've got. That's our slogan, but it really is. We are an experience, and we turn people's days around. It's a really cool feeling. We did a brand retreat early on, I don't know, probably 6 years ago, where we made sure that we systemized everything so that we kept our culture as we grow and scale. So that's so important to us that we're not just hair removal. We're making an impact in people's lives and the communities that we're in.
Nice. Kyla, who's your ideal franchise owner?
Someone a little crazy like me. No, I'm just kidding. We love people that are just great leaders. The business side of things we can coach. A lot of our franchisees have never been business owners before. I think we've got 2 in the system that have been business owners. But like I just said about systemizing our brand and culture earlier on, we did this with our employees. What are the traits that we're looking for an employee of Foxy Box? And we came up with 3 things to make decision making easy. Everyone that works at Foxy Box has to have a positive attitude, empathy, and be self-responsible. So that if you go, is this the right person or not? You can go back to those 3 things. So it makes decision-making easy. Well, do they have this? They don't have a positive attitude. They're sometimes not very nice to the other staff members. Okay, that's not the right fit then. So we just did this for our franchisees as well. I had an aha moment. Okay, we did this for our employees from the business level, but we haven't done that from a franchise or franchisee level. And the 3 things that we think are the most important for franchisees to have are they need to be coachable. We love being self-responsible. And we ask ourselves, would I buy from them? Are they a good salesperson? Are they going to get out in that market? So those are the 3 things when we're doing our discovery days now. Okay, how do we look for those 3 traits? Yeah. And I mean, who we partner with, our most successful ones, and what's super important to us is that they're involved in their community. Like I said, we're huge on community impact. We do a fundraiser every year called Foxy Fest on International Women's Day, where we do charities in every location that we're in, and we raise money for local charities. So being a big part of the community and not being afraid to get out there is big for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of the big challenges I see with new founders when they franchise their concept is, of course, they don't. And I should say we, because I was one who didn't know who my ideal franchise owner was. I didn't even know what the right traits were for somebody to be successful. I thought it was somebody who was like me. In my case, I thought it was somebody who liked sports and kids. And I was totally wrong with that. In fact, it was somebody with more business acumen, somebody who was outgoing in the community, all the things that is what it really takes to be successful in business. And I would imagine
Yes.
same thing in your business, not being hands-on. It's not being a great, what do we say? Vagician, I believe is the proper term. But for your business, like you identify those 3 traits that kind of rolled off your tongue. And I think you could help so many others that are listening to this, that are fellow founders starting out. How did you come up with those 3 values for the employees and for the franchisees?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, for the employees, we did a branding retreat. So that was, I spent money. We spent 2 days with a branding specialist and an equine therapist, which is hilarious and awesome. And the equine therapist did therapy with me to go, why did you start this brand? We know Foxy Box is cool and like you started it and whatever, but why? What's the core, reason, the essence of Foxy Box? And that's where we came up with it. Certainly is a way I want to make women feel powerful and energized. My team got together and we threw out all these words. Okay, when we think about what makes an ideal magician, we threw out all these words onto a whiteboard, and then we went, okay, yeah, these are the 3 that are most important to us. So for our franchisees, we now have 16 stores open, 17, 18, 19 franchise partners because we have more under construction. I got to have a whiteboard where I write them down now. But, we look back on our franchisees and we go, okay, what are the traits that we love in all of them? Because you are figuring it out from when you first sell your first few, you're going, okay, what would I do different, or what's working, or what has come up, because it's such a short time really to be in a long-term relationship with these people that you have to go, okay, is this a good fit or not? So once you've been with them for a while, you can go, okay, what are some traits that I love? And then how do I test for those? Again, get your team together, throw some words out on a wall and go, these are the things that are important. And now how do we look for these in discovery or in that interview process to make decision-making easy? Are they a yes or are they a no? That's
awesome. Is there any franchisee in particular that surprised you, that like they exceeded your expectations from the time you met them till now?
I mean, all of my franchisees surprised me. I just love them all, really. They all have such different backgrounds and different stories that warm my heart. I've got a son, he's 9 months old. So I've just recently going on my founders tour, I'm calling it, which is I'm going to visit every single one of my franchisees and I'm giving them a squeeze and going, what are your biggest challenges and how can we support you better? And I love doing that and connecting with them because it is a reminder that all of them have different stories and they're all in different places. So I love to have that connection, but I'd say the one that surprised me the most that I was maybe leery about was I have one location that's a partnership. There's two girls together own this store, and I was leery about partnerships. And I would tell you, they blew me out of the water how successful they've been, how incredible they are. They support each other. They want to be multi-unit owners. They were they were profitable the fastest. They have the biggest community impact, and it's because along with having us as support, they can lean on each other as well. So I guess that would be my biggest surprise is people I hear don't stay away from partnerships. You don't want to have 2 people own a store, but like they've been our most successful and really awesome.
It's so interesting that you should say that, Kyla. I experienced something very similar. One of my early franchising experiences, gosh, it probably is the first dozen franchisees that I had. There were 3 franchises where they were partners. One of them were brothers, another one were neighbors, and the third one was like a brother-in-law, 2 brother-in-laws together. And I remember that in the 3 experiences, they did not turn out well. And it kind of soured me as a new founder that I thought partnerships don't work. And I remember even saying I'm not looking for partnerships. And I had all of my limiting beliefs on why they didn't work until I had these group of guys that came from, I remember they were in the Phoenix area, and they also knew each other I think it was through their kids. I think the kids played on the same sports team. And they were telling me all the reasons why they were different. And I took a chance on them. And the reason why they worked and the partnerships do work, number one, it was my own problem as a founder. I had the limiting belief they don't work because the roles of each partner were not clearly defined early on.
Right.
And when the 2 partners don't have roles that are clearly defined, I thought you do that. Oh, no, I did that. No, you do this role. But it was my responsibility as the franchisor, if I'm bringing the partners in, for me to get clarity on what the responsibilities are. Who do I need to contact? Who's doing the marketing? Who's doing more of the operations? Because as the founder, once we identify that partnership, then you and I, if we're the founders that are maybe evaluating them in discovery day, we get to make a better decision if we think they're a right fit, if they know what their definition is of how they're going to play a role.
For sure. And I grill them as well. And we make sure that they have a partnership agreement before we even enter in with them.
Smart.
Okay, what happens if something goes wrong between the two of you, or if it's not working? What's your plan? So we make sure that that's laid out. But same, Frank, my first license that didn't work out, that was two of my magicians at the time. So it was a partnership. So that's why I was like, I'm never doing this again.
Sure.
And then everyone's has bad experiences with partnerships. And then my Kamloops franchisees, they're best friends, and they've just like blown me away how successful they've been, and they're just so involved in their community at every event. They're just awesome.
Yeah, no, that's true. Partnerships can definitely work. It comes down to us making sure they have a clear role, and that's okay. But those are those mess ups that we make as founders early on when we're franchising our concept. We don't know better. Nobody's teaching us to say, partnership, you need to be wary of, A, B, and C. But I'm glad you got through it. And yes, it does work. That's great advice.
Yes.
Okay. What is the investment range of one of your franchises?
Anywhere between, our lowest has been about 175 up to 400,000. And that's really our build out costs. So our cheapest build out, Frank, has been $70,000. And that's if we find a unicorn space, but they're coming up more and more now, actually. Our two ones that are opening, I call them unicorn spaces because they're rare, but they are coming up more, which is a doctor's office that's closed, a massage clinic, something that's built out into rooms, because we have treatment rooms. So if you can find a space that's built out into treatment rooms in a good area, it's going to cost you $70,000 to put our brand in there. If you're doing a full build out from a shell, our most expensive build out was $275,000 for 1,200 square foot build out from shell. So your leasehold improvements is the most expensive, but to get into it, 175 to 400,000 is our range. And what's big range, but that's
what's the ideal footprint size of one of your locations?
1,200. We say 1,200 square feet. You can fit 6 treatment rooms into 1,200 square feet. Our smallest location is 700 square feet. Our franchisees own the building, so that's why we went there. And they got 4 treatment rooms in there. But 1,200 is a great size. Okay,
and territory is based on zip codes, or in Canada?
It's based on population. Yeah, we do it on population. So we like to say 80,000 population density is a good. You're going to be successful with that population. So my goal is not to saturate markets and get. That's one thing I hear at trade shows all the time. Well, what's the territory you're going to give me? That's like the number one question. If someone's owned a franchise already, they go, oh, I own a gym, and then they opened one 2 blocks from me, and now I've lost all of half of my customers. So that's not my goal. That's not my objective. I want to see it's in my best interest for my franchisees to be successful, and I want to set people up for success. So we say 80,000 population density is a great territory.
That sounds great.
And then we do a radius around it.
Sure. What about absentee owner versus, hands-on? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we like to see our owners full-time in the stores for the first 2 years at least. We're a membership-based model. That first 2 years, you're in your community and you're growing your brand. People come in once, they experience our brand, they become Foxy fanatics. They're going to come back month over month, so we grow month over month. The first 2 years are the hardest in business, but also the most critical and important. So we want to see our franchisees the face of their business and nourishing their team and building their client base.
Good for you, Kyla. I think that's great. What about multi-unit versus single unit franchises? What are your thoughts?
Well, we just signed our first master franchise agreement.
Congrats.
So that was not really multi-unit because he will have franchises under him. But yeah, we are interested in multi-unit as well. But it's important to us that they know how to run one before they open another one. So our Kamloops franchisees, they've owned their business for 2 years now. Now they're looking at opening a second one. They know it. They know the business. They've nailed it. Same with our Port Coquitlam franchisee. She's ready to open her second one. She's looking for spaces. So it is, once you are established and you know our business, then okay, now let's look for another location for you.
And what about when you identify territories, how do you evaluate potential markets? What makes a good territory versus one that you won't go in?
Great question. I think that we've shot ourselves in the foot a little bit with going into a market that's too small. And so I think that population is a big deciding factor for us. Mm-hmm. Our smallest population is 18,000. Having said that, within an hour and a half radius, we've given her a huge market because it's close to a destination point that has a transient population of over 100,000 a year, right? Like it's like a tourist destination. but she's seen much slower growth. So, I mean, having said that, her rent was way less. So she still is successful, if you will, and she's happy being a business owner. But I think having that population to support your business is really important. We have said no to some people that are just in territories that are much too small.
Yeah. Does household income play a factor into franchise territories?
Not really. We do pull stats and we give that information to our franchisees that when we look at them. But I mean, our service is, our membership is $45 a month. You know what I mean? Like our main customer is women from 35 to 45, but we've got university students. I mean, we really cater to a range of people. So,
okay.
Yeah. So we don't really look at household income.
Okay. What's your long-term vision for the company?
Taking over the world, Frank, one box at a time.
There you go. Oh my gosh,
I wrote
great.
I say I'm a master manifester. That's my only job. I write stuff down on the wall and then it happens. I'm just kidding. I do other things as well. But I did, my master franchisee in Quebec, I manifested him. I talked about him at our Q3 meeting, him and her, I should say. And then they came to us in December, 3 months later. But yeah, I'd love to see Foxy Box as a worldwide brand. I'd love to come into the US. My big, hairy, audacious goal is to have 150 locations by 2028. So I better get into the US because I don't think we can grow that big here in Canada. But yeah, I'd love to see our brand impact communities all over the world.
Sweet. When you do come into the US, are you thinking of selling single unit franchises, or are you going to do something like an area developer similar to what you've done with the master franchise in Quebec?
I think area developer. I'm excited that we've done this master franchise. They've started construction. They've got 2 stores under construction right now, and I'm really excited that we've gone down this path so that we can test this relationship, how that works. Because sure. I think coming into the US, which is a much larger market, area developers and that sort of model is going to be beneficial to us for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So Kyla, is this a legacy business for you? Do you plan on doing this for life, or are you going to take this to a certain level and say, I think I got to let this thing go to somebody else?
Well, Frank, I have 3 boys. I've got 2 teenage boys and a 9-month-old boy. So I thought, well, unless one of them takes over the business, I got to sell it one day, I guess. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe one of my boys will want to take over Foxy Box. But I'm young still. I love what I do. So I always say, as long as I'm having fun, I want to keep doing it. So I'm going to keep growing this thing, and then we'll see if one of my boys steps up or if we got to sell this bad boy. Mm-hmm.
So I want to get back to folks that are looking to buy a franchise from you. Mm-hmm. I know that you're so careful on who you bring in, right? Because you've got those core values they want them to have. So when people are doing their due diligence, we don't want to try to encourage them to buy our franchise, nor do we want to scare them away, right? What's maybe some due diligence advice or something that you tell them or warn them about when they're looking at opening one?
Yeah, I mean, I tell franchisees all the time, owning a business is going to be one of the most challenging things that you will ever do. So you got to buckle up, be prepared for it. You have to be resilient, and you got to love what you do. Like, is this what you want to do? It can be the most challenging, but also the most rewarding. I mean, you get to come into your business and love what you do, but it's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. But that's why we're here. We're here to support you. And that's why you buy into a franchise system. We are business coaches and also emotional support humans. I mean, it's twofold, right? But business ownership is like a roller coaster. There's highs and lows. And so I tell my prospects all the time in Discovery Day, and I do scare some of them off, and it should, if you're not prepared for, if you're not ready to make the jump into business ownership, that's okay. And maybe the timing isn't right or what have you, but you got to be a resilient human and align with our core values.
That's such great advice. Yeah, because we don't want to give people a false sense of security that business is easy. I can't let this go unnoted, but there's so many people that are watching or listening to this that are looking at maybe either franchise their company or they're looking to buy a franchise. You need to know there's nobody here can save you. You have to save yourself. As a franchisor, we're going to give you all the support you need, but nobody's going to wake you up in the morning that you roll out of bed and making sure that you're running your business. You need to do that.
Exactly.
The other great thing that you said is that business is not easy. And if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. That's what I love about business is that it is difficult. And that quite honestly, if it was easy to do, we would have so much more competition.
Yeah.
The difficulty of it is that it keeps competition at bay. It keeps people out of it.
Yeah.
And isn't that a great thing?
Yes, it's a great thing, yeah.
Kyla, if someone was interested in opening a Foxy Box laser and wax bar, where would they go?
Yeah, they can go to our website, foxyboxwaxbar.com. There's a whole franchise tab on there. You can go get all the information, reach out to us. And then our VP of Development, Kezia, will line up an initial call with you. And we have what's called a Discovery Center. So even actually, if you don't want to talk to Kezia, you can still just go through the DRM, which gives you webinars, information, a whole bunch of stuff for you to look at anyway.
Sweet. Okay. I finish every podcast with the franchise tip jar because the industry is so generous with sharing of advice. Let's see. If you knew an entrepreneur that was looking to franchise their concept, is there a piece of advice that you would give him or her before they jump into franchising their company?
Buckle up. Buckle up, baby. That would be my advice. No, I would say, I wish that someone told me this earlier on to, become a member of the IFA or CFA or, the International Franchise Association and attend a conference. So I said this earlier on in our conversation, but, find people, make them be your friend and be a sponge. It's such a supportive industry that's been, so surprising and incredible for me is seeing how willing to share knowledge everybody is. Everyone wants to see everyone succeed in the franchise industry. So my piece of advice would be go to a conference, meet people, get cell phone numbers, find people where you want to be. Oh, that person's got 5 locations, or okay, I'm going to be their friend. I'm going to pick their brain. Then when you get there, okay, I'm going to find someone that has 50 locations. Get their cell phone number, pick their brains, and just keep growing like that. But we're all here to support each other. So that would be my advice. Go make some friends in the franchise world.
That's awesome. Kyla, great advice. Thank you so much for being on the show. I wish you all the best, and I wish you all the success when you guys open up here in the U.S.
Yes, thanks, Frank. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fumey, or Emerging Franchise Group LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.